So this next, or I guess first in many editorials we have here, or tutorials, is going to show you the basic use of the news log and how to go about finding news. So nothing super crazy or intense when it comes to actually finding news. It's pretty basic and simple. So of course we do have our own sources that we have. I have some, Michael might have some, Gig might have some. It just depends. Those will come from people with contacts. If you have contacts, you might have sources of your own as well. That's kind of how news is gotten in that sense. Usually those will be written by people who are closer to it, but if there's a situation where they want to pass on their news information to the rest of the crew, they will do so using the news log, which is what this is, the LRM news log. So here is a place where we put our news, stuff we find from around the web, or stuff we get sent from the studios, or stuff that people put on the log for someone else to write up for one reason or another. So what this is a way we make sure that there is no duplication on the site, that there is no circumstance where, I write a piece and then a day or two later someone else writes the same piece, or even in the same day someone else writes the same piece. So we have a story working title, not really a working title, but more of a summary of what the story is about. James Gunn, Guardians Q&A Roundup, there's the link. Drunk Tarantino, James Bond, there's the link there. And what you want to do as much as you can is go to the direct source. So let's say, for example, let's say I had picked this up from Screen Rant. Let's say they had written an article about it at Screen Rant. They would source Esquire. So when you go, maybe you frequent Screen Rant as an outlet. You go there and you find the story on Screen Rant. On the news log, you don't put Screen Rant here. You find out what they sourced and then source them, because we want to go to the direct source. There is an exception to that. For example, let's say Entertainment Tonight, they have a YouTube video, and in that YouTube video an actor says something and someone has to transcribe it. Let's say if you found the article on Screen Rant or the news on Screen Rant about the actor talking about something, if they're the ones who transcribe the text, you do it differently. So let's say the way that would be sourced on the article would be source, then it would be Entertainment Tonight or ET via Screen Rant. So that's how that would be sourced. And then basically you'd link Screen Rant's article there, then you'd link the direct source from ET there, and you just embed the links. So that's how you go about sourcing it. But let's go back to the news log. You want to make sure you go as possible. You want the actual direct source. There are situations where you want to do the secondary source. Usually it's in those situations like before where you actually need to use a transcription of another site, which is totally fine. No point in doing double work if you don't have to. The only difference would be maybe if they got it wrong or they messed up and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to transcribe it myself, which happens from time to time. So at the bottom of this, you'll notice there are all sorts of tabs for each day of the week. We have this log. It's basically resets every week. Each week, as we catch up to the next day, which is today's Wednesday, so let's say Thursday, they have last week's stuff. Tomorrow, probably Cam, since he's in UK, we'll go in, delete all this stuff, and reset this thing so that we can put in the news stories for the day. From there, you go in, you claim a piece, or you add news pieces. So let's say, for example, you want to find news. How do you go about finding news? As I mentioned, you go frequent your websites. There are easier ways to do that. For example, I use a site called Feedly, and in it, I have all these websites that I use for sources, and they pretty much update them immediately. So, Star Wars series from Russian Doll creator in the works at Disney Plus. That is brand new news. Did not even know that was hitting. So, I'll copy the link to that. The date of what the date is actually the 22nd today, so I got to fix that. You want to see if you can get the actual date of the article. That helps, because if in 2 days, like on Friday, you just want to make sure that people know that it's an older article. Anyway, so the actual news is Russian doll creator working on Star Wars series. That's basically how I would summarize it. So Russian doll creator working on Star Wars series. Disney Plus series. Boom. Copy it or paste it there. good to go. As you could see, I mean, it's that simple. And let's just say you were coming in whenever you have free time. You're like, oh, I like that article. You type in your name. Only claim the article if you're planning on writing it. If you can't write it immediately, do not claim it, because we want to make sure these news pieces get out as soon as possible. So I don't want anyone to claim an article and then not write it for 2 hours or 3 hours if possible. There are special circumstances where we can allow that, but usually not. So you go in and you automatically change the writer claim to you, then the status to writing, and you'll see that it changes color automatically. And I actually posted this article, so I should do that. And this article has been posted. So published is what you change it to. Or actually, you don't even change it to published. As soon as you're done with it, you would change it to pending. Not pendings. Pending. And then I would come in and fix it from there. So what else is there? Bottom here, there's every day of the week. Go in, claim an article, you're good to go. Utilize this Feedly to find places to basically aggregate all of your stuff, and you should be good to go. There's nothing magical about the sources that we use. It literally is just what's out there. A lot of our news has to do with secondary sources, so it's based on either events that happen, stuff that happened online, or stuff from other outlets. The primary source stuff we have maybe comes from our interviews with talent, as well as maybe sources that we have directly. So that's about it. That's pretty straightforward on using the news log. Nothing crazy about that. One for each day of the week. We also have column ideas ones, which I'll usually be utilizing that, so don't worry there. Do not touch this one here, and don't worry about all these other ones. Here on the back, I have helpful links for various purposes. LRM logos, podcast network links. I'll probably be adding to this as time goes on, but that's there if you need it. But yeah, that's basically it for the news log. And once you get a piece that you want to write and you claim it, you basically start writing it. And after you've written that article, make sure that the article follows all the Styles Handbook guidelines, and make sure it incorporates all the news guidelines that I have in separate documentation. And then once you're done with that, you can go ahead and watch the next tutorial, or one of the tutorials that has to do with how you format stuff on WordPress. It's a whole process of how to get from article on one side to article in WordPress and ready for the site and ready for a review from an editor. So that's it. Thank you.